Oh, well, apparently I was going on my phone, had my phone on mute here, so they popped into my office. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a webinar, go away. And they're like, no, 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 they can't hear you. So apologize there, guys. Gonna restart here with my phone off of mute this time. Um, Jenny, if you're listening to this here, please go ahead and start the recording. If I could get a few people to raise their hands so I could confirm that you can hear me, that would be excellent. Thank you, Joe. All right, cool. Well, it looks like I'm coming through now. Okay, so my name here is Chad Klein. As many of you probably know already here, I'm an account manager, been with Paladin for a few years. We're going to be talking about a new feature that we just came out today called Class Act, requiring an information by class. Kind of a new little feature here. It's really an expansion of a feature that we built for our pharmacy market when they need to track restricted items and collect a little bit more customer information. We've now expanded this to be used by our hardware market as well, so we're going to go over it and kind of talk about it a little bit today. I'm being assisted by the lovely Jenny. If this is the reoccurring time, second or third time that you've come seen our webinars, you're probably familiar with Jenny. She's going to go ahead and answer any questions if you have any to type in the pane there, and then I can always take everyone off mute at the end as well if we got a longer question. Jenny, if you would go ahead and please begin the recording, that would be great. Thanks so much. Okay. So a little agenda stuff here. What does it mean to require information by class? What is this feature? Why would we use it? And if you're part of our hardware market logging in, you may be wondering, how is this feature applicable in my life? So we might talk about that a little bit here. Want to go over how to set it up, of course, how to add an item, how to designate an item as that restricted class, how to enter the required customer information at checkout. There's a screen that pops up, and there's a few different ways that we can do that, so we'll talk about that. And then I'll just hop over to Paladin and kind of quickly show everyone exactly what I'm talking about, make sure that we're all on the same page and I'm coming through clear. So let's jump right into this here. What does it mean to require information by class? Well, we can designate, as many of you know, we have different levels of organization attached to an item, department, location, class. We can now designate an item, you build a class, and you apply that to this item. And this would be a restricted class. That's how we're tracking these items that we need to collect a little bit more information on. And then when these items are purchased, since they're an item that exists within that class, it will go ahead and prompt the clerk, hey, you need additional information from this customer in order to proceed. Now, we can, a couple different methods to input the information in there. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen our webinar with the 2D barcode scan. That is by far the best way that you can go about collecting customer information. Fast, efficient, it's clean. We're not going to mistakenly type and hit a key and not collect the correct information. Beep, we just scan the state issued ID. Paladin puts the right information in the right spot, kind of parses it out a little bit. We can record it and very quickly move on. And then the other way, of course, would just be to manually enter that information. We can always just grab the state issued ID and look at the information and type it into Paladin. Obviously not the preferred method, not nearly as fast, but it'll still get the job done just the same. And why would some stores use this feature? If you're selling one of these items, you're probably familiar with a couple good examples. Spray paint, many times, or many states require that you collect a little bit of additional information. Any items that can be used to make drugs, sometimes we sell some agricultural chemicals that can be turned and made methamphetamine with, and so we want to track those items, sales on those items a little bit deeper. Firearms, we got a lot of hardware stores out there getting into the firearms market, which is really exciting. Guns, ammunition, not everyone requires that we collect information on ammunition, but certainly for selling a firearm, of course. And then alcoholic beverages. If you want to expand to start having a little beer cooler there or something, we can now go ahead and start collecting that information, making sure that we're doing a good job checking those IDs, making sure we're not selling to an underage person. So how would we go about setting up the restricted class? And I might be preaching to the choir for a few people, but always good to have a little bit of refresher on how to set up a class. So in the File menu, click Setup. Right, and we're at the upper left-hand corner of Paladin. File, Setup. Then you go over to the Class tab. Now, we can do this. You can either designate an already existing class, one that you've already made and is already existent and attached to a few items perhaps. And all you need to do, you don't need to do anything if you were just trying to designate an already existing class. You just need to get out the old pen and write down that class ID over to the left-hand corner of that pane over here. 922, 923, 924, that's the class ID right there. And then, of course, if we're just trying to create a new class, we would go new, type in a name that's not in use by another class, type in a class ID that is, again, not in use by another class, and then save that. We also want to get out the old handy pen and make note of what that class ID is as well. Now, we got a little note down here. We can only specify one restricted class that can apply to any item. You can have multiple items that have this class, but only one class will be your restricted class. Now, a little bit additional setup here. Still in that file setup menu, same spot. You want to hop over to the company tab now. Scroll down, down, down. It's about 3/4 of the way down. You'll see a restricted class pane. In the restricted class pane, there's a little checkbox. You want to click that right there, enable restricted class. And then remember the class ID that we wrote down a few moments ago. We now want to put that into the field that I got the little arrow pointing at on my slide here. So in this instance, in my little hypothetical over on the side here, we got restricted class number 999. And then, of course, we want to save it and then close. Now, how to actually designate an item as an item that we want to require that we collect a little bit more information as. Many of you are familiar with the inventory module as well. Just go in there, just like setting up any old class, hop over to the general tab once the item is pulled up. You can click the general tab over or get a little hotkey. You can always go page up or page down to switch between tabs in Paladin. Kind of an important note here, many EDI vendors set the first class selection. So you've got 3 classes. If this is an EDI item, an item you order from your primary supplier via EDI, you don't want to use your first class because many of those EDI items will automatically set that first class. They use that there. So if you set it to something else, the next time you process one of those EDI files, it's going to change it back to whatever your primary supplier's class wanted to be. Unless we locked it in, but we don't necessarily want to do that. We have the extra second and third class spot, so just go ahead and use one of those if this is an item that you order from your EDI primary supplier. Then once we've designated the class and attached that to the item, we just want to click Save, of course, and now it's ready to be sold. So when you're selling an item, very much just, and this is the automation part, so it's just like selling any other item that you would scan and sell. Now, however, after you take the revenue type, a window will pop up and say, hey, we require a little bit more information in order to finish this transaction. If you're wondering, I wonder if I have a 2-dimensional scanner or a 1-dimensional scanner, can I actually collect information? An easy way to tell would be when you click the little trigger on a 2-dimensional barcode scanner, you get an X. It's like little crosshairs. When you get on a 1-dimensional barcode scanner, it's simply a line. So that would probably be the easiest way. Another way is if you haven't bought barcode scanners in the last couple years, they're probably 1-dimensional scanners. You can always reach out to our customer service department and purchase a 2-dimensional barcode scanner if you so want to. Okay, let's hop over to Paladin and make sure that everybody was following along and we are all on the same page. Okay, so first things first, we need to set up this class. Let's go File, Setup. And we're going to hop over to this Class tab here. And I have not created a restricted class, so this would be the point where we either want to look over and say, hey, you know, floor care, which would be a ridiculous example, but this is the one that I want to make as my restricted class, and just make note of this ID 100. But I don't have one that I want to designate, so I'm just going to make a new one here. Scroll down, kind of see what's going on in my IDs. Okay, it looks like 222 is where I end, so I could slip one in, of course, I'd have free one between, but I'm just going to put it way out there so it never gets in my way when making a different class. So I'm just going to hit new over here. Let's call this restricted class. And we're going to make the class ID 3333 and save this. Okay, so that's all we need to do over here. Very simple. Hop over to the company tab and scroll, scroll, scroll. There we go. Right beneath comparative revenue report, we have restricted class. And we only have two things here. Very easy. Just enable the restricted class. And then we're going to need to pull up that number that we were smart and wrote down, 3333, restricted class number. Scroll down to the bottom, hit save. Now, if at any point you ever bring up a class or you're in the item, the next step here would be to bring up the item and add the class to it. But if you ever do this with department or class, this is one of those little kind of nuanced things, and you add a class or department, and then you can't find it later on, or a supplier, I believe this is the same story with. If you can't find them later on, you're trying to use them, you're like, man, I'm sure that I created them. You just need to restart Paladin. Sometimes Paladin requires a little bit of refresher here. So when adding a class, department, or supplier, just remember, restart Paladin, and then when you go to find that supplier and add it to an item, it'll be there. I'm just restarting Paladin here, and we'll give it a second. Okay, very good. Okay, so we've set up the class, we've enabled the restricted class, and taught Paladin which class ID that falls under. Let's go ahead and add the class to an item. In my inventory module here, bring up your item, and then we want to hop over to the General tab. Now this is an item that already has a class set at class here, and I do purchase this from my primary supplier, so I don't want to take up and change this first class. I'm just going to hop over here to this second one. And since I know 3333 was our restricted class, I can just type that in and hit enter, as opposed to scrolling through the whole list and trying to find it that way. I find it's a little quicker if we can remember that class. Go ahead and save the item. Now, little demonstration, let's sell it. Hop over to invoice quote. Just like any item, we would type in the part number or scan the barcode. Sell a couple of them here. And let's proceed with the checkout. Taking cash from this customer, hit enter, and there we go. This additional customer info required box pops up. Note this little credit card looking thing right here. Anytime you see that, we can go ahead and use a two-dimensional barcode scanner to collect the information. So if you ever see that field, maybe when creating a special order and it asks you to add a customer or just adding a customer or collecting additional customer info here, beep, one little scan, you can get all the information. Scan away, collect the item, complete the transaction. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is today's presentation. Jenny, do we have any questions?
It doesn't look like we do.
All right, very good, guys. Well, hey, I want to appreciate everyone for spending a couple minutes with us this morning. Next week, we're going to be talking about SIGIS. We've got our kind of local SIGIS expert. To those who are like, what is SIGIS? What is this acronym here? That is the group that controls the eligible product list that can be purchased using those FSA, HRA, HSA cards, those flexible spending account cards. And he's going to be talking about all things SIGIS, how to get and update your eligible product list, how to sign up, how to troubleshoot when situations arise. Should be very educational. So please join us next Tuesday at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you guys then. Thank you.